In life, when we start on a spiritual path, very often we tend to look for teachers, for someone who can open the path for us. Now, often we attract what is within us. Sometimes don't, perhaps, but sometimes we do. And if our spiritual search is very much based on me, wanting to have experiences, speaking in tongues and impressing people, then you're going to get somebody like that is going to tell you, I've got the biggest secret in the world, and if you follow, you're going to be an egomaniac like I am, but you will have all these amazing powers. And so it's very important when we enter a spiritual path to ask ourselves, why are we taking this path? And hopefully you'll begin to see that what you are looking is liberation from that part of us that creates unnecessary suffering. Meaning there is some pain in life. We're going to get sick, we're going to hurt, we're going to be rich, we're going to be poor sometimes. That is the flow of life, and sometimes we learn that way. But the ego, the negative part of the ego that fights, that wants to overcome others, which wants to have power, which is full of anger and hatred, that is when we are in the spiritual path, what we are looking to release. It's not about astral traveling, it's not about channeling voices in our head, it's looking for that liberation. And the more that liberation occurs, then we begin to see another aspect of our nature, of who we truly are, very much based on being in a state of peace, above all, in which there is vibrancy, in which there is love, in which there is vitality. And although still the world gets to us because we live in the world, but we don't anymore that strongly hold on to it with an angry eye. So that is the very important aspect of our path. And then we're going to find people who will vibrate, who are vibrating, who very much represent that what we are looking for. One such a masters, I think of the Vietnamese monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, which I think he's wonderful, and so forth. Now, what you have to be a bit aware of is when you get into atmospheres where you got this guy sitting on some kind of throne and so forth, with these magical eyes, these eyes which go so deep, which penetrate you, and you have the public, the disciples, looking like, total admiration, sucking this energy in, taking it in, and try to avoid that, because very often these people enjoy controlling your life. They enjoy worship. They enjoy being put on a pedestal. They don't like contradiction. Okay? They don't like people to move on and find things for themselves and conduct their own life. And that can very often be discovered after a while, that you're near them. To me, someone who teaches is not someone that wants to get hold of you. Is not someone that wants your soul. Is not someone that wants your admiration, that wants your worship, that doesn't want on your bank account. Meaning, give some more, That is not what you should be looking for. And I can talk because having lived in the East for many years and having been on this path for 52 years, I've often come in this situation of being with teachers that seemed almost perfect. And you can see in my clip about the dance of the ego, liberation and the dance of the ego, how this ego, even when a spiritual person opens up and goes into higher and higher levels, this ego still can find its way, wiggle its way through, you know. And although it shows you a face that, oh, I'm so spiritual, but it's still this I who wants to be worshipped, who wants to be followed, who wants to be obeyed. And when you are on the spiritual path, yes, you want people who are serious, otherwise you don't want to lose your time. But on the other hand, you don't need worship. You are happy when people come to you and they say, I found my path, I'm moving on. Okay, let's move away. You know, let's hope we can do it with a good memory, that we've had a good friendship. But that is it. You know, it's about sharing. I like this word. I know it's an old hippie word of the 60s, but I love it because it means I'm not telling you. I'm not climbing on you and saying, here, putting my foot on your head and saying, you know, just bow to me. It's simply saying, well, this is what I found and this I'm sharing. And hopefully it's going to be of use to you. And then move on. I like to complete this, this talk with a very nice story about one of my favorite saints of all time. His name was Ramana Maharishi. He's now becoming quite popular. People are discovering him more and more. And at the age of 17, he had some great openings, some great discovery. He began to feel that very ill. He was just sitting on his veranda and suddenly he started feeling very ill. And the thought came, I'm dying. And he went and he lied down in his room, and instead of panicking about dying, this occurred to him, who is saying I'm dying? Who is dying? You know, who is this I that is saying I am dying? What is this being within me? And then, so who is the one that is saying I'm dying and who is really dying? So he went and said, so this I, am I my body? So my body is dying, so am I dying with the body? And then this very strong feeling came that the true source of this I was not going to die with the body. Bodies can come and go, but this does not go. So then he said, what is going to die? They are my emotions, my thoughts, you know. But then again he said, this presence, this I, always remains. My thoughts come and my thoughts go. But this awareness is still there. And he went through different phases like this, till at the end, all the layers were peeled and there was just this pure being, you know. So that's the Vedantic phrase, I'm the Brahman, I'm the absolute. You see, but not the I, the ego, that's not the absolute. The being which really shines within me. That's what I am. Now he went into a very deep meditation, blissful, you know, just sitting and just staying in this bliss. And he left home, and after different kind of adventures, he went to one place and then to another. I'm going to cut it short. He ended up in a cave. He left the main town where he was, Tiruvannamalai, and he went into a cave a bit up in the hills where he could be really, really quiet. And so over a year passed by and he was sitting there in silence, and people started coming more and more to him. You know, they started going, oh, who is this saint? You know, and they would just sit and watch him, you know, because he was just there silent. Just before he spoke again and he expressed himself with people, a local priest started sitting outside the cave and telling people, this is my disciple, so that people would give him money and other things. Oh, you know, he is so blissful because I taught him how to meditate. While in reality, that was a spontaneous thing that happened to Ramana. Anyhow, the day that Ramana began to talk again, some people asked him, they said, is it true that this priest, this Brahmin, is your guru? And Ramana very simply says, well, if he says so, he must be. You know, and that's how he dropped the question. What I also liked very much, one evening a woman wanted to bring him some food, but it was getting a little bit dark. And that area in those days, we talking of the beginning of the 20th century, still had some tigers. And as she was walking towards the hill, towards the cave, a tiger appeared. You can see this poor woman in the late evening, all alone in front of this tiger. And of course she started trembling and thinking, I'm food. You know, I'm going to be the food of this tiger. So she prayed very loud, you know, oh Ramana, Ramana, save me. And she saw Ramana appearing, and the tiger left. You can think the elation, the joy of this woman. She ran all the way to the cave and said, Ramana, thank you, thank you. You did a great miracle. Now, the greatest majority of gurus would have been, oh, yes, yes, I have, you know, the Lord is with me, blah, blah, blah. But Ramana looked at her, this is really too funny, and he said to her, woman, you were so scared that you materialized me. You know, you projected me. And that scared the tiger. But it was you who has saved yourself. Nothing to do with me. So I'm not going to take the credit for it. And there were many events like that in his life. Once, you know, in India, people circle a sacred icon. You know, they go around it like if it is in a sign of respect. Because when you go around the icon, it's like you go around the whole universe. You know, and you are worshipping the presence of the divine. So they started doing that around Ramana. Ramana would be sitting and they would get offerings and start circling him. Something that many gurus really enjoy, like, oh, you know, look, I'm being worshipped. And after a while he turned to them and he said, women, can you please stop that? You are making me dizzy. So I could tell you many more stories of Ramana because they were quite beautiful that way. And he lived all the rest of his life in that simplicity, you know. And he did spend a lot of time in silence with people, but strange enough, people would come, sit next to him, and from within them, the answers would come. So he always strived to awaken within you your spirit and set you free, which was quite beautiful. So I hope that you'll remember this when you are on the path, you know, how you can get caught by your ego at different levels. So be mindful, be vigilant. You know, the moment you see that arise, move away. Just let it go. Just drop it. You know, the moment that you are wanting the attention and the worship around you, and everybody bowing to you, just move away. You know, don't go there. And if you see somebody who is highly caught in that, respectfully bow and again walk. So have a happy journey, and I hope that these words would be of some use to you.